all-purpose flour, a half a cup of cocoa powder, 1 cup of water, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and our last ingredient, 6 tablespoons of vegetable oil. So those are the ingredients, so let's get started. For my first step, I'm going to grab my all-purpose flour, get that right into the bowl. I'll get my cocoa powder in there as well. Give that a little shake. My baking powder. Grab the back of a spoon, push that through. Perfect. And then I'm going to get my water in there as well. And our vanilla. And our little bit of salt. I'll grab my mixer. And just start mixing this up. I'm going to get my oil in there now. And then our last ingredient, our sugar. And that's it for this recipe. So this is 100% dairy free. You can see this really, really nice batter starting to appear. Very, very rich. And that looks good. Just like that. And as I was saying, this is 100% dairy free. No eggs, no milk, and no butter. On to our next step. I'm just going to start filling my little cupcake molds. And I do have my oven set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. This batter is really rich. And if you want to lick the spoon after or the beaters, it's 100% safe because there are no eggs in this recipe. So I'm going to keep filling these. I'll be back in a second. And always switch over to a spatula when you get to the bottom because you do not want to waste any of this chocolate goodness. Oh, I am in love. And there we are. So these are ready for the oven now, 350 degrees Fahrenheit. You notice that I only filled 9. I could have filled 12, but then they would be smaller. I want to have larger ones today. So I'll just take those out. 350 degrees. I'm going to bake these for about 25 minutes. So here we are, right out of the oven, 25 minutes, 350 degrees. And look at these. Really, really nice. Look at the rise on those. A really, really nice cupcake. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So I just zoomed in just to show you the nice rise that we got in the oven. They smell really good. At this point, they're extremely hot, so I'm just going to let these cool down, and then we're going to break into one and I'll show you what they look like inside. So this is about an hour later. These are still just slightly warm, but let's break into one. Oh, look at this. Dairy free. Let's see. Make sure I can get this on camera. Look at how moist this is. Look at this. Wow. Oh. Look at how fluffy that is. That's really, really good. Really, really yummy. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm probably just going to frost one of these and use that as my intro for this video. But that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you wish. I do appreciate that. That's it, and I'll see you next time. Dairy free. That is really good. no eggs. And this is why it's called wacky cake. So let's get on with the ingredients. 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1 cup of cold tap water, 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, 6 tablespoons of vegetable oil, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 tablespoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and our last ingredient, 1 tablespoon of white vinegar. So those are the ingredients, so let's get started. For my first step, I've taken all of my dry ingredients and put those together here. On the other side, I have all of the wet ingredients. So this is going to make this really, really simple. I'm going to take my all-purpose flour. It's the first thing we'll get into our bowl. And I'm just going to sift this in. Anything left at the bottom, just push it through with your fingers. The sugar, you don't have to sift, but I'll do that for fun. Right through. Our lovely cocoa powder. Our salt. And our baking soda. And that's baking soda, not baking powder. The baking soda is going to have a chemical reaction with our white vinegar. I'll grab the back of a spoon and I'll push this through. Perfect. I will grab a whisk and I'm just going to combine all of the ingredients together. So once this is all combined, you can just grab a little spoon and we're just going to make 3 little wells. And this is not really necessary, but this is how people made this recipe a long time ago. So you make 3 little holes, and this is what they did. So they took the oil and poured that into 1 well. The vinegar into another well, and the vanilla into another well. And you can see here, the vinegar is already starting to react with that baking soda. And then all you do is you take your cold tap water and you just pour it right on top of everything like that. Grab your whisk and just start whisking this together. So what you saw me doing here with the 3 little wells, you don't need to do that. This is how they used to do it, and that's how I thought I would do it today. But you could just pour everything in one shot and just mix it all together like this. So you don't have to create those little holes or little wells that I did. I have my oven set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to pour this into a parchment-lined baking tin. It's an 8x8 tin, 8 inch by 8 inch. And that's good. So here is my tin, lined with the parchment. So I'm going to pour this right in here. And we're going to bake this 30 to 35 minutes. I'll switch over to a little spatula to make sure I get all of our nice cake batter out. So that white vinegar and the baking soda is what combines together. There's a chemical reaction, and that's what's going to make the cake rise. So now I'm going to pop this into my oven. I'll bake this off and I'll come back when it's done. And here we go, exactly 30 minutes later. I just brought this out of the oven. It's extremely hot, smells really, really good, and you can see a really nice rise on that cake. Hopefully the camera can pick that up. If I put my gloves back on here, I'll tilt it up a bit and you can see a really, really nice rise. So at this point, this cake is extremely hot. I'm going to let it cool down and then we'll unmold it. So to unmold this, I'm just going to take off my little metal clips. And then I've got the parchment paper here. And now You can just lift that cake right out. And I love parchment paper. Look at how easy that is. So this cake is quite warm still. I'm gonna let it completely cool down, and then I'm gonna cut into it and show you how nice this cake is. Now that our cake has completely cooled, let's cut into it. Can you see how nice that cake is? Look at how moist it is. It's bouncy. Let's cut into this. I'll show you what it looks like inside. Look at this. Isn't that amazing? Really nice. Let me zoom in. So now that I've zoomed in, you can see a little bit more of the detail. And look at this cake. Look at how moist that is. Really, really moist. And this is why you call it a wacky cake. No milk, no eggs, and a beautiful product. Look at this. Oh, of course I'm gonna have to try a little piece. Oh, that is so good. Really, really moist, really tender. You would never know that there are no eggs in here. An amazing, wacky cake. Let me zoom out and I'm going to show you how you should serve this. So all I've done here is I've just taken off a little piece so that I've got a nice straight edge. I'm going to grab a nice little square here and get it onto a plate. Now I've got a little sieve here. I'm just going to put a little bit of powdered sugar in there, and then we're just going to tap the top right here and just get a little bit on there. And there is a nice way to serve this. Just like that. And there we have our finished product. So just to finish up this video, I've just zoomed in a little bit more just to show you this a little closer up. And here we have our final product. Our really, really yummy, super tender, wacky cake. No milk, no eggs. A really, really fun and easy recipe. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you wish. I do appreciate that. That's it for today, and I'll see you next time. Unsalted butter, that is 6 ounces of butter, 4 eggs, 2 cups of brown sugar, 1 cup of chocolate chips. I am using semi-sweet chocolate chips, but you can use any kind of chocolate chip that you like. 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of dark chocolate, 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, and I'm using Dutch processed cocoa powder in this recipe. You can use regular cocoa powder if you wish. 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and I am using pure vanilla in this recipe. A half a teaspoon of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of salt, and 1 tablespoon of instant coffee. So those are the ingredients, so let's get started. So for our first step, I have a medium-sized bowl here. I'm going to get my sieve into place, and I'm going to sift my flour and my cocoa powder. And we'll get that right into our bowl. Grab the back of a spoon and just push it through. Perfect. To that, I'm going to add in our baking powder, our salt, and our instant coffee. I'll grab a whisk and just whisk all these together. On to the next step. For our next step, we're going to melt our chocolate and our butter. And what I have here is a pot of hot water. This is gently simmering. I've got a glass bowl. I'm going to get my butter into there and all of my dark chocolate. And we're going to let that slowly start melting up all together. So what we're doing here is we're gently heating our chocolate. You never want to directly heat chocolate in a pan directly on your stove because you can burn or scorch it. This provides a really nice way, a really gentle way of heating that chocolate. So I'm going to increase my heat a little bit. You don't want the water boiling because that will create steam that will come up around your bowl and potentially go inside the bowl. So you never want to have your water actually boiling. You can see this is nicely melting. A really slow melt is exactly what I want. So I'm going to let this go for a while and I'll come back when it's completely melted. So this is about 2 minutes later, and what I've done with my spatula, I started breaking up the butter into smaller pieces just so that it would melt a little bit quicker. But you can see how beautiful this is looking. So it's really starting to come together. So I'm just going to let this go for another few minutes and I'll be back. So that looks good. All the butter has melted. Now you may be wondering, I don't want to do this setup. How do I do this? Well, instead of heating everything on this thing called a bain-marie or a double boiler, what you can do is you can melt your butter in the microwave and also microwave your chocolate. And if you're going to do that way, use the defrost mode for your chocolate. So at this point, I'm going to turn my element right off. This is done. We're going to remove it and we are ready for our next step. So our chocolate at this point is quite hot, and I'm going to get in all of my brown sugar. And what that's going to do, it's going to drop the temperature of the chocolate. If we put in our eggs right now, we could have a chance of actually turning them into scrambled eggs, and that's something we don't want. So by adding in this mass here of sugar, it's dropping down the temperature of that chocolate mixture, the chocolate and the butter. So I'm going to break this down. And when you are measuring out brown sugar, you always want to pack it into your measuring cup, and that way you get an accurate measurement. Oh, this smells so good. So we want to make sure that all of our sugar is really well combined into the mixture. And that looks good. And then we'll add in our vanilla. And then we'll start adding in our eggs. Egg number 1. Number 2. Egg number 3. And you can see right away that this whole mixture is really starting to loosen up. And we need that extra moisture because we're going to be adding in all of our dry ingredients in a few seconds. And our last egg. And then our chocolate chips. Oh, that smells so good. And then our last step, all of our dry ingredients. So I'm going to slowly get that incorporated. And my oven is set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So keep mixing until combined. And if you are doing this with a whisk, you're going to get a very good arm workout. So if you have a friend, have them help out mixing, because this is a little bit of a task. You can use an electric mixer if you wish as well, or your KitchenAid mixer. So I'll keep doing this. I'm going to be back in about 30 seconds or so. Okay, that's good. And now we are ready to pour this into our pan. So I've cleaned up and I have a nice mold here ready to go. I have lined this with parchment paper. And I'll just measure this, and it is 9 inches square. And this is a Chicago metallic brand pan. Really good quality. So we're just going to grab all of our beautiful batter and get that right into our pan. And my oven is set to 350 degrees. I'm going to bake this for about 45 minutes. Perfect. So that looks great, just like that. So I'm going to pop this into my oven, I'll bake it off, and then I'll come back and show you the final product. Oh, this smells so good. My beautiful triple dark chocolate mocha brownies. They just came out of the oven about 15 seconds ago. Very, very hot right now. I have to let these cool down before we actually slice into them. So I'm going to let them cool down and I'll be back in a little while. Oh, that smells so good. So once our brownies have completely cooled, and these have been cooling for a couple of hours now, I'm going to remove my clips and then grab my parchment paper and give it a little pull. And there we have our beautiful brownies. Oh, and they smell so good. Alright, so let's cut into these beautiful brownies. I can't wait to taste one of these. This is a really, really nice recipe, full of chocolate. Oh, let's flip that around. And look at that. Perfect. Oh, really, really nice, fudgy. Let's just break into that. Oh, it looks so good. These are so rich, you don't even need an icing on the top. Let me just taste a little bit. Oh yeah, really, really good. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really had fun making this one. A lot of ingredients went into this, but you're gonna have a really, really beautiful brownie. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you wish. I really do appreciate that. So that's it for today. I'll see you next time. Oh, so good. Yum. I'm going to show you a really fast process. So let's get started. For today's video, because we're using the microwave, we're going to start off with a raw corn on the cob. For this to work really well, you're going to want to microwave your corn on high for anywhere between 2 and 2.5 minutes. Today, I'm just going to go 2.5 minutes. I'm going to pop this in and I'll come back. I'm going to set this for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and here we go. Okay, and we'll just let that go. While our corn is microwaving, you want to get yourself a cutting board, a knife, and a towel, because the corn is going to be extremely hot when we bring it out. Okay, that's my 2.5 minutes. I'm going to grab my corn like this, get it down on the cutting board, and then all you need to do is just measure in a little bit and cut right through. Just like that. I've got myself a serving plate, and now you're going to grab the end of that corn, and it's extremely hot, so be very careful, and just give it a little bit of a squeeze. Whew, hot. And there we have it. Perfect corn on the cob. Clean up our plate here. I've got a little bit of butter. We'll get that on there as well. Everything goes better with butter. And that's good. And of course, salt. You always have to have salt. And if you want a little bit of pepper is good too. That's perfect. Then I'll just get my little corn holders on each side. And there we have it. So let me just zoom in. So I'm behind the camera here. I just wanted to show you this a little closer up. And that there is perfectly cooked. Absolutely no flavor loss because we've done it in the microwave versus doing it in hot water where you lose a lot of flavor. So I'm back in front of the camera. I just wanted to show you really close up and pan back and forth on that corn to show you how nice it really is. A really fast way to make corn on the cob in your microwave with no flavor loss at all. A really good way to do it. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you wish. I really do appreciate it. That's it, and I'll see you next time. Oh, you know I have to try some of this. Oh wow, that's really good. Recipe, so let's get into the ingredients. 1 cup of salted butter, 1 cup of vegetable oil, 4.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 2 eggs, 1 cup of icing sugar, and our last ingredient, 1 cup of granulated sugar. So those are the ingredients, so let's get started. To start off our recipe, I have my 1 cup of very soft butter in our bowl. To that, I'm going to sift in our icing sugar, and this is also called powdered sugar or confectioner sugar. We'll get all of that in there, and then the little pieces that are left over, I'll just push those through with my fingers. And that's good. I'll add in my granulated sugar as well. And our vegetable oil. Get all of that in there. Perfect. I'm going to grab my hand mixer, speed number 1, and I'm just going to start creaming all of this together. So you want to get this really well combined. I'll speed up my mixer a little bit. So you just want to mix this for about 30 seconds or so. You can see it's getting very nice and smooth now, which is what we want. And then I'll add in our eggs. Egg number 1. And egg number 2. And then our vanilla. Alright, that's good. And then we're going to sift in our all-purpose flour. So we'll start getting in our flour. So I'm going to get a little bit in there. And then I'm going to grab our baking powder and just dump that in and get that mixed in with the flour. And then we just want to sift in all of the rest of our flour. Just get it all in there in one shot. Give it a little tap, run your finger through it, perfect. Grab our mixer one last time, speed number 1. And we're just going to get this mixed in until combined. If you run your mixer too quickly, you're going to have dust flying all over the place. So you want to just go at a very slow speed. You can see how quickly this is coming together. So a very short mix time. Just clean off my beaters. And now we are ready for our next step. I've got my pan ready to go. I've got a little silicone liner on here. You can use parchment paper if you wish. I'm just going to grab a little scoop. So this is about a 2 tablespoon scoop, about 30 ml, and I'm going to start getting these on there. And this dough, you can see, is very, very fluffy. Really, really nice. So I'm going to do a few of these and I'll come back in a second. That's good. I have some regular granulated sugar. This is an optional step, but you can take some and just drizzle it over the tops. Just like that. Or you can take some sprinkles and put those on there as well. Totally optional. That looks good. So into my 350 degree oven for about 12 minutes. Alright, just out of the oven 2 seconds ago. I left these in for a total of 12 minutes exactly, 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I've got quite a bit of batter left, so I'm going to bake all of these off, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you the final product. I just come back for one little second and I just zoomed in. I just wanted to show you how the silicone really makes this easy. I can just lift the cookies up. You can see they're nicely golden brown on the top. That looks really nice. So I just let these sit here about 2 minutes before I tried to move them. You want to let them just slightly cool for about 2 or 3 minutes before you try to actually get them off. So now I'm going to go bake the rest of my batter, and then I'll show you the final product in a little while. So here we are again at the end of another video. All of my cookies are baked, and I have to tell you, these smell really, really good. This recipe makes 60, but I have 59 here. It all depends on how big you make your scoop, how heavy-handed you are. You can get a little bit more if you make them a little bit smaller, or you can get fewer if you make them a little bit larger. And of course, we're gonna have to break into one on camera just so I can show you how nice these are. And check this out. Look at this. Oh, of course I'm gonna have to try one. This is like a mix between a shortbread cookie and a sugar cookie. More of a sugar cookie, but you get that kind of shortbread taste in there as well. Really, really good recipe. I hope you try this out. That's it for today. If you enjoyed my video, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you wish. I do appreciate that. That's it, and I'll see you next time. Oh, these are really good. One egg. So those are the ingredients, so let's get started. To make this really simple, I'm going to be mixing all the ingredients directly in my KitchenAid bowl. And if you've never made pasta before, you're going to be amazed how easy this is. Grab all of your flour, just get it all in there. All of your water, that's salt, and your egg. And that's it. So I'm just going to set up my stand mixer. I'll be back in 1 second. So I've just moved my camera a little bit so that you can see right into the bowl. I'm going to get my little paddle. I want to use my paddle attachment for this recipe. I'll bring my bowl up, and now we're just going to simply mix on speed number 1. And I'm just going to let this go, and we'll just watch as it all starts coming together. So I'm not going to turn off the camera so you can see the whole process. I just want it to go a little bit more. That looks good. I'll just check it. It feels good. I'm just going to let it go for another second. Perfect. And that's it. So we'll just remove it. Get my machine out of the way. Pull it all out. You can see the bowl is relatively clean. Now we'll just get all of this off. And you can also do this the old-fashioned way. You can put your dry ingredients down on the countertop, make a little well in the middle, put your egg in, and then break the egg, and then start incorporating all of the ingredients together. And that's how they did it years before machines like the KitchenAid, you know, were even a thought. So that's good. So I think I'm going to just zoom in a little bit so you can see this a little bit better. Okay, I've just zoomed in. You can see we've got a nice little yellow tint going on, and that's because of the egg yolk that was in our recipe. And at this point, you can just knead it a little bit. And I don't want to use any flour on this. I don't want to make this dough any drier than it is. So all I'm doing here is just kneading it a little bit. And that's good like that. And at this point, we need our dough to rest. So I'm going to wrap this in plastic wrap, and then we're going to pop it in the fridge for a couple of hours. So I'll grab my plastic wrap. We'll just get it on there. And now we want to pop that into the fridge, just to let it relax. If we didn't put our dough in the fridge to relax and we started trying to roll this out right away, the dough would actually start contracting, and that's not what I want. I want the dough to be really, really relaxed when I roll it out later on. So this is a few hours later, and my dough has nicely relaxed. We'll just open it up here. I'm going to get a little bit of flour. This is just all-purpose flour. Lightly dust it. Grab a bench scraper. I'm just going to cut that in half. And at this point, if you were doing this by hand, you could just take this, roll it right out really, really thin, and make whatever type of pasta that you like. A really fun and easy one is to take this dough and roll it out really thinly and then make little raviolis out of it. But for today's video, instead of rolling this out by hand, I'm going to be using my little pasta attachment on my KitchenAid. I'll set that up and I'll come back in 1 second. So I have my KitchenAid mixer ready to go. I'm going to grab my little attachment. This just simply slides into the top. I'm going to turn this little fastening bolt, just lock that in, and we are ready to go. And to start off, I have my roller attachment set to the widest setting. I'm just going to grab a little bit of my dough. I'm going to start my machine just at speed number 1. And I'm not sure if the camera can pick this up, but the gear system in here, it's turning the 2 little wheels or rollers that are here. Then I'm just going to simply take my dough and you just feed it through, and you can see it coming out here. I can just roll it or rub it in a little bit more flour, and I'll roll it through again at the same setting, just like that. And you'll always want to keep your pasta well floured so that it doesn't stick in your machine. And then what I'm going to do is, so it's at number 1 here. Now to make it a little bit thinner, I'm just going to go to number 2. I'll start the machine again. And right through. So every time you change that setting, your pasta is getting thinner and thinner. That's good. It's all personal preference. If you want to pass it through the machine 1 or 2 times at the same setting, it doesn't matter. There we have it. And maybe I'll go 1 more, because right now it's getting pretty thin. What are we at here? So I'll go number 3. Just want to have a little bit of flour. Make sure it doesn't stick. And here we go. And look at this really, really nice pasta now. And I could actually go a little bit thinner if I wished, so I'll do 1 more. It all depends on your personal preference. Always make sure that you do have a little bit of flour on it. I'm just getting a little bit of flour. It's good. And now we'll go through one last time. And there we have it. You can see how long this is. So let me just change my camera angle just to show you this a little bit better. So you can see, just using a half of that dough that we made, how much pasta you get. I'm just going to measure this for fun. We're talking about 21 inches, you know, and this doesn't really matter. It's about 5 inches wide right there. So at this point, you can make some really nice ravioli with this, or you could cut them into thin lines. And if you don't have a machine to do that, you can do it by hand by using a pizza wheel or a knife, and you're going to want to use a cutting board to do that. I'm going to use a mixer attachment for my KitchenAid to do that. So I'm going to set up for that and I'll come back and show you. The attachment that I'm going to use today is for fettuccine noodles, and that's this one here. This one here is to make spaghetti, which is much, much thinner. So I've got my KitchenAid attachment ready to go. I'm just going to get a little bit of flour down. There are no adjustments on this, so you want to make sure that your pasta is well floured, because you don't want it getting stuck in the machine. So just make sure it's all covered. And if you're worried about getting too much flour on your pasta, you can use a little pastry brush to take off the excess. I think that looks good. Feels good. And I'm going to turn on the machine. Speed number 1. And we're just going to slowly start feeding this into the machine. And there we have it. Magic. And we'll turn it off. And here we have our fresh pasta. And if you're ready to use this right away, you're going to get your water boiling, lots of salt, and then just pop it right in. But look at that nice amount of fresh pasta. When you look at the low cost of ingredients that we used in our recipe versus the high cost of fresh pasta in your grocery store, you'll want to start using this recipe all the time. So I guess what I'm going to do to finish off, I'm just going to roll this out again. I'm going to switch this over to the roller. I'm going to roll that out, and then I'll come back and I'll just show you, I'll cut another one of those live just to finish off the recipe. Lock that in, get our machine going. And there we have it. Fresh pasta. If you want, you can just get a little bit of flour on there. If you're not going to be using them right away, you just want to coat those with the flour so that they don't stick. And then right into your salted boiling water. So there we have it. So that's it for this really fast video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you wish. I really do appreciate that. That's it, and I'll see you next time. One last note before I go, for those who want to know, this one little recipe made 253 grams. So there we have it.